What is the all is lost moment?
The all is lost moment is when the character is as far away as possible from achieving the goal. The significance of the all is lost moment is in hitting rock bottom, the character has an epiphany. And the epiphany is the recognition of the flaw that is holding them back. Then the connection to the character and the action that they take at the top of the last act that leads to the achievement of the goal should reflect the consciousness of the flaw and acknowledgement or the denial of the flaw with the choice that is made that leads to the resolution.
So the all is lost moment is so important in getting the character to change.
Yes. In hitting rock bottom, again, universally, we all hit our rock bottom moments. We all hit our moments where they say each person has at least 3 to 4 of these moments in life. So these are moments that are identifiable. And when the audience is watching the character hit rock bottom, they're identifying with what that is. And then when they see the character's awareness become conscious of the flaw, then they look at their own lives and think about, could I make better choices that could lead me to a stronger outcome by acknowledging the flaw? So when we see in story all the time when it's done well, then we get empowered in our own lives of how we can transform our all is lost moments into growth opportunity.
So that's interesting. So you say that most people will hit 3 or 4 all
Yes.
is lost moments in their
Yes.
life. Does it have anything to do with age or financial status or anything?
It doesn't, because I have so many people who will say to me, are young writers not ready when they're writing? And I said, all depends on what happens in their life. If you have a young writer whose parent died when they were 10, they become old souls. So those are the types of moments, certainly with us going through what we all went through with the idea of Black Lives Matter, and us feeling that connection with characters that are going through so much loss, that these are life-defining moments, that it's not because they're 25 or they're midlife or they're old. It's because these are things that are happening to them in the moment that could be at any life point in any life phase. So these defining moments are like turning points that happen in our life, and they can happen at any time. And I think the phase of life that we're in determines how our character will evolve from the choices we make because of what happened to us.
Does the all is lost moment usually result from a goal like a failure of a goal?
The all is lost moment is like your final. And another thing to think about with the all is lost moment, it should always be due to an action that the character takes toward the goal versus something that happens to them. So you always want to think of, yes, number one, it's so important that you feel the goal in the all is lost moment, that you feel that the character is as far away as possible from that achievement, and that they are being active. And it's kind of like in life, like you hit a brick wall so many times before you start to recognize that's not the way to do it. Your all is lost moment is serving the same purpose. It's telling you your flawed behavior is getting in the way of your dream, and unless you do something to change by becoming more aware and conscious, you are not going to have the same outcome with the resolution as you will if you acknowledge what's going on with the flaw and what's holding you back.
And is the all is lost moment the same as the dark night of the soul?
In film, I have, like, say for example, in a film like Avatar, you have the all is lost moment and the dark night of the soul is two separate moments. In many films, they are one and the same. So I think it all depends on the structure of the film. I think there are plenty of writers where they're seasoned writers who know how to serve both, and both are part of the same type of sequence, which is something that is bringing the character aware of what is holding them back as it links to the dream and the goal.
How long does the all is lost moment last in a story?
The all is lost, well, it depends on the story, but it is quick. It is something where now the all is lost sequence could be something, depending on the story, that could feel like it's building from the midpoint on. But ideally, you're looking for the moment itself is something where we feel that due to the action taken, they hit the all is lost moment, and this is something that quickly happens where they feel at wit's end as far as the goal.
What if the character refuses to change?
Then you're having a tragedy. Then that brings you into the idea of a film that is a tragedy because the character resists the acknowledgement of the flaw.
Do you see that with a lot of writers? Do they want their characters to change?
I see resistance for the idea that what we've talked about earlier is that so many people in their lives, it takes so much before they're willing to change. So, however, I feel like when you look at the idea of change, everything's incremental. Like you look at a character who you say, no, they'll never change. Like when you look at, for example, when you look at the comedy and they say in comedy, the character doesn't change. Yet, because now certainly in streaming, when you have the half-hour drama, then you're taking on the component of the transformation where the character does change. And I even think many comedies are also now recognizing the value of incremental change, even if it's not a massive change, but a small change in the awareness of the character.